Hi guys, welcome back to my complete guide on Cakephp. This is the chapter number 3. We'll discuss the direct structure of Cakephp 3.4. Three most important folders are there in Cakephp framework. The first one is the config folder. The second one is the src folder. And the third one is webroot folder. What this folder basically contains. These folders, just like a config folder, it is generally used to configure your web application. The first file, the important file is app.php, and this is a file that is used to configure the web application. For example, if you want to configure your database for your application, this is the file where you have to define the database configuration. So besides this, other configurations directives are also there. These are defined in app.php. The second one is the routes.php file. This is used for the routing purposes. For example, the URL of your application, different URL for the application you can define here in routes.php file. The third one is the paths.php file. This file is basically used for definition or define all global constants. The fourth one is the bootstrap.php file. This file is basically used to tell your Cakephp what are the different things you want to load during the booting of your application or starting of your application. The next is the src folder. It consists of controller. It is used to store all the controllers for your application. Model is basically to store all models. Template file, template folder. This is used to store all the CTB files, cake templates. CTB stands for cake templates files. These are only the HTML files it contains. So these three folders are very, very important also. So the third one is the webroot folder. It consists of some folders just like a CSS folder. It stores all CSS, custom CSS, all CSS library you can store here in this particular folder. There is a folder called img folder, store all the images, and JS folder, you can store all the JS folders, JavaScript folders and JavaScript library also, just like a jQuery. You can store all these things here in this particular folder. Now let's try to find out, let's try to see in these files in our project folder and try to configure our web application or Cakephp application so that we can work on that particular Cakephp project. Now this is our XAMPP folder. Inside the XAMPP there is a folder called htdocs. This is my new cake folder. This is my project folder, and this is our Cakephp project folder. And if you see, there are some source folder is there. There is a config folder. There is some app folder, app.php, and bootstrap.php, paths.php, and routes.php. These are the files. We'll work on these files. I'll tell in detail in the coming chapters what is this source folder, what the path folder, and how to use this bootstrap folder. File. These are the files, very, very important files. We'll discuss all these files in our coming chapters. And if you see this source folder consists of some controllers. These are very important. Controller consists of all controllers. We'll discuss about the controller also in the coming classes. And if you see this controller, The model is the folder which consists of some other tables and entities and behavior. So we'll discuss all these things. These are basically model is this particular folder is used to uh, work on database. These folders and files are basically communicate to the database, and there is another folder called template folder. This template folder is basically consists of some files and folders. These are the files and folders. These folders and files generally generates your HTML templates, layouts and elements. All these things, the layout, the presentation part of your application are basically controlled by these folders. And view, this is the some classes. This view class basically used to generate different type helpers and different type of HTML view. These files are also used to create different type of view by using Ajax and other views. So we'll discuss these things also in very detail. Now in the SRC folder, controller, model and template, these are the basic and most important folders. We'll work on these folders. Now if you go to browser, now go to browser first, then I try to run our newly installed Cakephp. So this newly installed Cakephp is, this is my new cake. If you say okay, now it is opening. So this is our Cakephp. Basically it is not displaying any error, so that means it is working well. Welcome to Cakephp. That means our installation is okay. Now little configuration, some configuration I'll do. So this configuration is basically database configuration. So for the database configuration, what I have to do is go to your browser editor, and here you see there is a configuration folder, config folder. Inside the config folder there is a app.php file, and this app.php file is basically, it is an array written by the program. This is the array basically, and it consists of some keys. These keys are very, very important, and I have to declare my database in my Cakephp project, for my Cakephp project, sorry. So what you have to do is you just search for database. If you go down to this particular file also you can find out, otherwise you can go to database resource, sorry, data. So you see database resource is the keyword, and it consists of some settings. For example, what is the server, is the local host, then what is the username and password for your database. So you have to write the username just like I have written root. You just write the name of the database user. Password is blank right now, and I have a database I have already created. So this database name is new cake project, and this is the name of the database. You have to create this database in your PHP MyAdmin MySQL. So this is how you can configure the database. So the three parameters are there: username, password and database. You have to define all these things according to your configuration. Database configuration. If you are using XAMPP, you just write root, and the password is blank. Generally the root is blank for the local host installation, and this is my database. Let's see this database. Let's go to your PHP MyAdmin. So this is my PHP My local host and PHP MyAdmin. This is the PHP MyAdmin, and if you see, already I have created a database in my server, and this database server is basically, this is my database, new cake project. So already I have created this new cake project. So what is that new Cake project? This is the database I have created. So this is the name of the database I have to specify here in my app.php file. So for example, I change this name of the database. For example, there is new project 1. This database is not there in my database server, so there is no such database. So let us try to run this Cakephp project. So it will display. So this is the error it is displaying. Cakephp is not connected to the database. There is some connectivity problem because unknown database is there. Okay, so if your database is not there, then it will display this error. So you just go and change this thing and go to the browser again and refresh it. Now you see, now the error is not there and the Cakephp is able to connect to the database. So this is the setting. This is the first step you have to do this thing. Now your system is okay. The database is connected. Cakephp is working well. Now we can start writing our application. In the next chapter, we'll try to create different entities just like controller, model, and views to start writing our first application. Till then, bye bye.